Hey, yo, listen, it's going down just like this.
Are you ready for this?
Hi, my name is Evlyn Nisbett, and I am a final year student at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus in Trinidad and Tobago, pursuing a BSc in agriculture. So, as a part of my final year in UWI, we are tasked with doing a final year project that is focused on something that is agriculturally based. So for this purpose, I decided to choose something in the area of crop science. And for crop science, I looked at, with the main focus being on roots and tuber crops. And when we say roots and tuber crops, we are talking about 4 main crops: sweet potato, dashing, cassava, and yams. And the reason for this is that statistics has shown that these crops were once our mainstay in the diet, in terms of production practices. And we have seen a shift in cultivation. Farmers, for that sense, moving away from these crops into what is considered easy growers or cash crops, like things like tomatoes, cabbage, bananas, plantains, right? And we know that there is potential for these crops to contribute significantly to food security, health, and economic empowerment in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we know that there's a problem in terms of why are farmers moving away. Statistics have shown that the countries in the region, St. Kitts and Nevis falls within the countries where you have the lowest production levels. And so we want to know what is the problem. So before you get an understanding of what is the problem, we must first understand, we must get an appreciation of what is the current situation as it relates to roots and tuber crops in the Federation. And that in itself is the basis of my research project. It is to add and contribute to the bulk of information as it relates to agronomic practices and post-harvest handling technologies of roots and tuber crops in St. Kitts and Nevis. So my goal is that by conducting this research project, that policymakers and other stakeholders in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis would not only get a better understanding of the potential of roots and tuber crops in terms of what it can contribute to food security and nutrition security for the island, but in understanding what the situation is at present, they can then use that to bridge the gap in creating policies that can improve or help to further develop the subsector in the Federation. The project began in January of this year, and it is expected to finish in March of this year. But in speaking with the farmers and interacting with the farmers, you find that farmers are willing to increase production levels. There is great interest. But like we said, there are many constraints that policymakers, the government, that would have to take a closer look at in terms of helping farmers to get to this goal. Production levels, in terms of what I am seeing on the ground, there is great potential. But with assistance, it can be improved. So what I am hoping for this project is that, having completed the document, the government will receive a copy. And so, like I said earlier, policymakers, stakeholders, including the government and all other persons involved in the roots and tuber subsector in the Federation, would be able to make use of this document in understanding what the current situation is. It would help to add to the bulk of information in terms of current practices. Like I said, we have seen a shift in cultivation practices, and so it is important that in going forward, in terms of improving, we know what is happening so that we can know how do we go forward from what it is right now. In terms of using what is currently happening, policymakers can also tap into the potential that these crops have in terms of processing, because that is something that we notice is an untapped potential. In their processed form, much is not being done with these crops, and so we are hoping that all of these are things that can be implemented based on the understanding that would be developed once the document is completed, once the research is completed. For the current root and tuber crop farmers, I would encourage them to continue practicing best cultivation practices, best agricultural practices as it relates to cultivation and post-harvest handling to get maximum yield from their crops. So for persons getting into roots and tuber crop, I would encourage them to get into something like this, because what you would notice is that roots and tuber crops are what you consider food security crops. These foods, in terms of yields, have great potential to produce significant yields, and in terms of adaptability, these crops can be adapted to a wide array of weather conditions. They can withstand drought conditions. They are indiscriminate of soil types, and so you find that these are what you can consider money makers, if we can say that, because they don't take much and you are able to yield a great amount from them. So I would like to thank several persons. First, I would like to thank the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, for the scholarship enabling me to be able to attend university, and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. I would also like to thank my supervisor for this research project, Dr. Oral Daly, and then I would also like to thank the Department of Agriculture on both islands, Department of Agriculture St. Kitts, Department of Agriculture Nevis, for their assistance in the survey in terms of disseminating the questionnaires and also getting around to the farmers. I would like to give a big thank you to the farmers, because without them and the information, this survey would not be possible. Thank you.